The sun was just beginning to dip below the horizon, casting long shadows over the quiet, suburban neighborhood where I had recently moved. It was the kind of place where neighbors waved hello, kids played outside without a care, and life moved at a comfortable, predictable pace. I had always dreamed of settling into a peaceful community, and for the most part, this place lived up to that expectation until the day everything changed. It all started with a letter, not a personal note from a neighbor, but a formal notice from the Homeowners Association. I remember the moment vividly, sitting at my kitchen table, coffee in hand, when I spotted the official-looking envelope slipped through the mailbox slot. My heart sank as I recognized the HOA's letterhead. I knew instantly that this wasn't going to be good news. The letter was blunt and to the point. It claimed that my dog, a lively, affectionate Labrador retriever named Max, was violating the community's pet policy. According to their rules, dogs were only allowed within certain size limits and had to be kept leashed at all times. Max was a gentle giant, friendly to everyone, but apparently that wasn't enough. The HOA insisted that I either find a way to keep Max confined or face fines and possible eviction notices. I was taken aback. Max wasn't a nuisance. He was a beloved member of the family. He had never caused any trouble, never barked excessively, and always behaved well during walks. Still, I understood rules were rules and I was willing to cooperate. But what the HOA was demanding felt excessive. They wanted me to keep Max entirely indoors during the day, or worse, muzzle him when outside. The idea of caging him inside all day in a small apartment felt cruel and unnecessary. I decided to visit the HOA office the next day to clarify the situation. As I stepped into the community's clubhouse, a sense of unease crept over me. The secretary greeted me with a plastic smile, and I could see the subtle eye rolls from the other board members as I approached. I handed over the letter, trying to remain calm. The HOA president, a woman who seemed to relish wielding authority, listened to my concerns with a condescending smirk. She claimed that the community's rules were clear, and they had a duty to enforce them for the sake of community standards. She dismissed my explanation about Max's temperament, insisting that every dog must be kept within strict boundaries. The conversation grew tense, but I kept my composure, knowing there had to be a way to resolve this without conflict. That afternoon I returned home with a sinking feeling. I knew the HOA's stance was rigid, and I could tell they weren't going to back down easily. I also knew that Max, with his boundless energy and friendly nature, was more than just a pet. He was family. I refused to let a bunch of rules strip away the joy he brought into my life. Over the following days, I began to research my rights and the community's regulations. I discovered that many HOA rules were vague or overly restrictive, often enforced without regard for individual circumstances. I also learned about local laws protecting pet ownership, which sometimes clashed with HOA mandates. But I wasn't ready to fight just yet. I wanted a peaceful solution. However, the HOA wasn't interested in compromise. They sent follow-up notices, threatening fines and legal action if I didn't comply. The pressure mounted. I started to feel the walls closing in. Every walk with Max became a covert operation, sneaking him into the backyard or rushing him inside whenever I saw HOA members approaching. Meanwhile, Max seemed confused. He was used to being a happy, outdoor-loving dog, and now he was confined more than ever. His joyful tail wagging turned into hesitant glances at the door, longing for the freedom he once had. Watching him, I felt a mix of frustration and helplessness. This wasn't just about rules. It was about the very essence of what made life with Max so special. One evening, as I sat on my porch watching Max lie down in the grass, I realized I couldn't let this continue. The HOA's overreach wasn't just about dogs. It was about control, about imposing rigid standards that didn't consider individual circumstances. I started to think about how I could push back, how I could make them see that their policies were unfair and unnecessary. But I knew I needed allies. The community was divided. Some neighbors had already voiced their support, while others remained silent, afraid of retaliation. I wondered if there was a way to rally those who believed in fair treatment, to stand up against the HOA's heavy-handed tactics. And so, the battle lines were drawn. What started as a simple letter turned into a fight for my rights, and for Max's happiness. I was determined not to let them take away the joy of having my dog, and I was ready to make them regret their overreach. Little did I know, this was just the beginning. The real confrontation was yet to come, and it would shake the foundations of this peaceful neighborhood to its core.